Why does the world needs robot now more than ever?
The most common thing that you will hear is there is a labor shortage. I don't know how much I agree on that. I mean, I agree that there's a labor shortage, but I don't think that is the main reason why we need robots right now. If you go to places like Japan, there is a huge labor shortage. Like Japan is like a true thing, and I'll give you the example. If you put a robot in a coffee shop in Japan, people's gonna clap at you because you're doing a good job, because they actually are struggling to find people in coffee shops to work. If you do the same in the Bay Area, you're gonna get a Berkeley student that is gonna be protesting to like take robots out because you're taking people's job. So this is sort of like the different mindset on the take of labor shortage. On factories, I think there's sort of like a different take. I think the labor that we're actually doing in factories is really tedious. I think we can try to think about higher dignity jobs to provide to people by really deploying robotics in scenarios like factories.
Why are you in China and not in San Francisco?
So the beginning of that answer has to do a lot with we are kids who love robotics. We wanted to come explore why is China launching a new humanoid, a new robot every other 2 weeks, every other week. And mostly we started building in the US. We saw this was happening here, and we wanted to come explore. We didn't know, but we got to meet over 500 robotics companies across different districts, different cities in China, from Beijing all the way to Shenzhen. And at some point, we started showing our demo. We started to get a great traction on our product. And it got to the point where we had to open an office here. We had to start like serving the Chinese market. And that's when, like, that's the point that we're in right now.
How much do you actually see in the US coming from China, like companies in China? Like, do you actually have a clear picture of what is going on in the Chinese ecosystem of robotics?
So it's a very different play from what we've seen in the US. I think we have to leverage both the sides, because US, we have like a great advanced software and AI for most of the topics in robotics, and of course the LLM's wave. But in China, you can, with very few capital, you can make a lot on the hardware world. And this is something that I think a lot of US companies are not yet realizing, that they should come here, they should experience at least being here, capturing some of the learnings that you can achieve by being in China, and maybe then just bringing that over to the States.
But now you live in China, right?
We've been here for roughly 2 months. We're trying, like, looking to make things more official on that regard, but I think it's always US and China for us.
Okay. So how is life in China?
That's a good question. I think we were in Shanghai. That's actually the main hub where we started. Shanghai is really international. That's sort of what you feel, but in the field that we're in, it is very different. It's really a nerdy, geeky area where everything is about tech. Everything is still a similar. You know, in San Francisco, people say that they're like, we're living on a bubble on AI. It feels really similar here when you're like on this bubble of like hardware and like AI hardware. I think life is great. Like, there's like we thought about, like, I thought always about the US, like we have DoorDash, everything is immediate, but here is like 5 times faster. It's like,
And you can get everything, like literally.
yeah, for the hardware side, this is the best. Like, look, since kid, I've been passionate about robotics and building things overall. Here is like, I wish I'd been a kid being in Shenzhen and buying all of these crazy things. Like, you can make a flying car if you really want to, and of course you have a little bit of capital for that.
I mean, you are still a kid, right?
Yeah,
Still
basically.
very young.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
I just turned 23.
23.
Oh wow.
And this is your third company or third project or third or fourth startup?
I mean, if you call it project, is like we've done a couple projects, like bootstrapping in college and in software. Did another accelerator before. It's called Entrepreneurs First. With one of my friends, we're building a biotech company.
When was that?
That was at the end of my second year college.
So let's start with how we met. This is a crazy story. So we were on the plane from Shanghai to Shenzhen, and we were upgraded on Spring Airlines, which is a low-cost airline, to the first or third row.
I was also upgraded.
Yeah, we were upgraded. So and then there was this one guy sitting next to us, and the stewardess was telling him, "Sir, can you please turn off your computer?"
Oh
And
yeah,
then,
I remember that.
this was Francesco.
I really hate that moment when it happens. I'm so, like locked in mood. I love airplanes for coding, by the way. It's
Yeah.
like one of my favorite spots.
So Francesco basically is addicted to coding. Right? So the stewardess told him, "Sir, can you please turn off your computer?" And he did. So he turned it down, like the screen, and
Yeah.
then but still continued coding.
I was wondering how the heck are you just continuing to write your code, or what the heck are you doing?
Since I was a kid, like I was born between Switzerland and I was born in Switzerland. I lived between Switzerland and Chile. I got to travel a lot in the plane, switching from one side to the other.
Mm.
And I think the airplane was always this place of like freedom where my brain goes completely free. I go fully creative mode.
Wow.
And I like to lock in. I even ended up getting like an AR glasses just to get my screen, and I can be coding in the.
Oh yeah, that will make a lot of sense
That
for
was-
you.
Yeah.
But so the airplane is this like creative moment where like I have nothing, really no distractions at all. I guess I ended up meeting you guys, but I was also just like still on that zone where my ideas get clear. I can get a clear direction for what's next. And especially when I was flying to Shenzhen on that plane with you guys, there was like a very tight schedule that we were following on different companies that we were visiting and so on and so forth. It's mostly clear in my mind, and just some of the best ideas happen on the airplane.
And then you don't even have to watch the screen to be that creative, right? Because you said you just literally remember where your tabs are and the windows are located so that you can navigate without looking at it, right?
So that is, yeah, I tend to remember exactly, like, because I have like specific tabs, so I can do command 1 and then I switch to what I'm doing. I remember the dogs that I had on that place, so that helps me, because when they tell you to close your laptop, you can always be.
So you don't need the AR glasses.
At the end, no. And actually, they're really uncomfortable to wear.
Yeah, right now, but maybe this would change in a couple of years, right?
Yeah, they're getting lighter and lighter.
Yeah. So in German, we have a saying that genius and crazy is a very, very slight, very small edge between genius and crazy. And I think you're just like on this edge, right? It's because last week we wanted to invite you to a networking dinner, and it was in Shanghai. And
that was this week.
This week, yeah. And then you called, "Oh, I'm in Shenzhen. Where are you guys?" I said, so
you want to know the truth behind it. So, man, like I honestly thought it was happening here. Like I didn't check the address. I was like, we're pretty locked in with what we were building. So I was like, okay, like dinner. I think it was like Friday and no. Thursday. We're meeting Friday, like in Shenzhen. We spoke about meeting Friday morning in Shenzhen. I was like, who in the world is gonna like invite me to a night networking dinner in
when the group name is literally called Shanghai Rooftop Society?
Yes.
But it was like the people from Shanghai meeting in here in Shenzhen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, nobody said it. It was just in your mind.
Yeah. I just thought about it, and actually, it was like it's almost like the world wanted me to stay in Shanghai that night because. You know, I originally had a meeting at like noon, and then I had to run to catch the plane at 3 p.m. to then be able to make it to Shenzhen on time for the dinner. I ended up changing that plane to like 3:30. I got to the airport and I asked one of my friends to change the plane, but he didn't mention that the plane got changed to Hongqiang Airport instead of Pudong.
Okay.
So I was in Pudong Airport and I had to commute to the other side, and I was like, screwed, lost that plane, had to book another plane, literally just all to come to that event with you guys. And it was so fun though.
So
it was quite an experience.
Take us with you. So what does a typical day in your life look like nowadays?
So it varies a lot. Right now in Shenzhen, we came to, I came to speak at a specific event, but also that opened a lot of doors to meet new companies in robotics that want to join our platform for robot deployment. That is on one side. On the other part, we are hiring a lot of engineers in this moment. So I've been going through different universities, visiting the research labs, and I'm actually going to Hong Kong tomorrow to go to a couple of their labs in HKU and HKUST and move forward from that. Setting the operation in China, this is the third thing, is like a legal process that you have to go through, like setting up a company in Hong Kong that splits between US and China, sort of this bridge. There's a big legal nightmare that you have to deal with that, and that is the third thing that we're going. And then the core is like we're building the technology for deploying robots in real world applications. So that's the fourth part that I'm spending my time in. Every day I have to go through all of this. and it becomes a cycle where I'm iterating over each of them over time.
So let's talk about your product. What is the problem you're solving with your platform?
System integration in robotics is 4/5 of the cost of our deployment, and the robot is only 1/5 of the
So
whole.
the hardware itself.
Yeah, the
It's
hardware
just
itself is just
1/5.
around 1/5. This is data that I got from like larger companies like KUKA and ABB. And it's really costly. Like think about you're trying to like do a pick and place of an item. If the item changes location, then you have to basically rewrite the code.
Customize it, yeah.
Yeah. And this is for industrial robots. Now it applies to what we call mobile manipulation platforms. Mobile manipulation are usually like a wheelbase with a torso and two arms on top of it.
Mm.
And anyways, this is really costly. So what we build is a very horizontal platform that allows you to integrate any robot into any application through our software. And think it about like a marketplace where robotics companies come in, we add our software, and we make them work and integrate smoothly with the end customer, either a hotel, a factory, or even, this is the cool part, a small business owner. Before, contracts needed to be very large to make sense. For the first time, we really want to enable everyone to get access to robotics from day one, offering like a free trial for like 10 days. They can get a robot deployed on their small supermarket store, right? On their small supermarket store, right?
So the main problem right now is that there are middle companies in between, like the system integrators that you said, right? How long or how does the process look like? How long does it usually take now to implement the real robot into operations?
No, it takes more than 4 months, for sure. Most of them 6 months contracts, and the problem with system integration is they're a service company. So when you want to grow, you need to scale your headcount of engineers,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Like you get
yeah.
more contracts, you get more engineers. Usually it's like mechie guy, electrical, and computer science. You just keep copying them. Here we have just the same. We're making robotics as a service, basically.
Oh, okay.
So how does it look in real life?
So we are starting on the robot side.
Mm-hmm.
The core part is we have a couple of customers right now that come to us. They send us a robot. We test the robot. We actually stress test the robot to understand what it's capable to do running our software. We run a semi-autonomy stack. And on the other side, we have a large distribution pipeline. And here's welcoming to any hotels, small business owners, factories that need automation. And actually, these guys are desperate for automation. And we work with them really smoothly, so they can just have one click. We integrate the robot in it. We call it a sell. The end user end up paying a monthly subscription for the robot, just like they did for a worker before.
So what small business would hire you or your services?
Small supermarkets, for example, like small local stores, is one of them, like refurbishing items. But frankly, we're starting by larger factories. We're actually starting by one of the largest factories in China, house appliance manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
Then you start task by task, or how does it actually look like when you do the tests?
It varies from scenario to scenario. Let me give you the example of hotel, right? Think of a hotel like Hotel Regal in Hong Kong. They have 500 rooms, and many people checks in and checks out within the day. Whenever someone checks out, we want to send the robot to the room to clean it up. When this happens, we need to be connected to the Regal's Hotels API to be able to schedule tasks on our robot. When the robot is in the room, we have to manipulate it to clean it up properly. So these are the two segments that we're working on. And for this is the marketplace, the two segments that we deploy in the real world.
We were talking about this before, and this was very interesting learning for me, that you said it's very easy for a robot to go and put this microphone from the table to the ground. It's very easy. But if you talk about cleaning tasks, these tasks are quite complicated, no? Because somebody puts a toothbrush on the right side of the thing, somebody on the left side, then there are some stains in the shower or whatever. So this needs a lot of training, right?
Very simple tasks are definitely much more straightforward than long horizon. Long horizon is meaning your robot has to work on the same room for roughly 15 to 25 minutes. This is pretty hard. And running all of this with the same end-to-end model, it is even harder. So that's why robotics has been really segmented. until the recent few years where we're trying new technologies. But yeah, I would say that definitely like shorter tasks, shorter horizon span of task is a lot easier than the longer ones.
Is it because why? What is the main problem basically? Is it because it's designed only right now to perform short tasks because of, I don't know, it doesn't run so long, the robot, or what is the main problem with it?
There are many challenges. We're still like the models are yet not good enough for accomplishing all of those tasks. That's where we are building semi-autonomy yet. We're not building full autonomy. And the second one, the hardware is yet not even designed to work for 24 hours. We are not talking about industrial big robots. We're talking about those cheap robot arms that each arm you can actually make it with $2,000 or buy it for $2,000. And those guys are going to break so fast when you try to run it with an AI policy, right? Because things are going to fail. You're going to hit something, the wire is going to bend inside of the motor. And then you got to start rethinking how you make things.
Yeah, and you told us a story before where you did some projects back in the US. You had some customers
It was fun.
where you destroyed the restaurants, right?
So it was not quite a customer. It was actually, we were telling that we were college students. We were doing our final year project. And so they were a lot more friendly to just like, hey, like, okay, I will help you. They also spoke Spanish, which was quite of an unfair advantage.
So what were you building back then? What did you build? You built also a robot?
We were making a robot that can fit on a kitchen. It's a tabletop robot. And the goal was like, where is it going to get the most value? So to really answer that question, we try to go every different week to a different location and really deploy the robot. Now, the challenge came when we actually brought it. We spent roughly 1 week like building it on the code base and testing it on the robot in our house, but we brought it to the site. And there were so many issues. Like already the Wi-Fi was breaking. We had no way to connect it without going through like 4 plugs because everything was too far. And when we actually connected and we tried to run a policy to do something very simple, like picking a chicken nugget and like putting it from one bowl to the actual box that the user is gonna buy, man, things went side. Like we started like with the robot at some point went nuts crazy, just like hitting the objects in the table. We hit the pan with the oil, like frying oil, and it was pretty complicated. But lucky enough, we were able to go back to the same place, and we did a better job on something simpler, not that close to the cooking. But I mean, that was 1 week that we tried. It was so much fun to actually. It was the biggest learning is try to put it on your customer's hands as fast as you can. And that gave us a huge iteration. Like we try to do the same for hotels, folding towels, so on and so forth, that at some point we realized that what we're building is not really a robot for this vertical or this different one, but more of like a platform that allows you to build and to deploy, actually integrate across all of them, and understanding what it actually takes for them to get the most value out of the robot. For us, getting the most value out of the robot is the number one. Making it work for long term is the number two. And then what we call like the after sales support is the third part of what we're providing to most of our customers.
So you're not building any hardware anymore, right?
We started by building hardware because we're geekies. We love it. We love robots, and we're sometimes like throw some R&D into it, but our core is the software. We understand the hardware and we wanted to learn even deeper how each component fits in together, all the way to like how the motors are built. But we're not exactly deploying our robots. We are capturing lots of learnings by working with these other robotics companies. They send us the robots for us to run it through our software and for us to deploy it, but we're using other people's, we're not really even buying the robots.
So your background is also in software?
Yes, in robotics, software robotics.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your educational background. So you're from Switzerland.
Yeah, I'm
we're
Swiss.
neighbors, and you're from the Italian part of Switzerland, but you have also crazy multicultural roots, right?
Yeah, that's true. So I told you I'm Swiss Chilean. In Switzerland, I live in a small town. It's called Stabio. We probably have more cows than we have people.
Same with my hometown.
Yeah.
So I lived a lot in Chile because my mom runs a nonprofit in Latin America that are helping people with disabilities, like improving the life quality. And I spent a lot of time in Chile. Most of my childhood was in Chile, and then a little bit older, like 15, was in Switzerland. I was not known. I was like not really the kid who liked school overall. So there was a university near my town, near my high school and kindergarten and middle school in Chile. Everything was in the same place, by the way. That became my actual school. I remember I was the usual kid who asked permission to go to the bathroom and would just dip the whole school. My kindergarten was in a German school, so they were really strict on it. But I remember always went to this university. It's called Santa Maria, in Valparaiso. This is in Chile. And man, the students were so welcoming. There was these two main students, Ariel and Ricardo, that like became sort of like mentors during my childhood to like make some crazy projects as well. And they also helped me to start auditing some of the classes that they were teaching that. So that's when my big drive in robotics and technology overall came in.
At what
Then-
age was that?
Oh, I think the whole thing started when I was like 8, 7 years old.
When I was 8,
Very-
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I
Definitely
think
doing something else.
the thing started to get a little bit more serious when I got to be 12.
Okay. Yeah.
Like that's when I actually started to travel for competitions in robotics. It was so fun. I think that's like what opened my attendance in high school and middle school was horrible. I had like 30% attendance. Every year they wanted me to fail until they actually saw me that I was like traveling to like a competition in robotics, but I was like already too unplugged from my school. And anyways, one of the competitions was in the US. I had like I saw the talent that was happening there. There was like all of the, and actually there was I have a picture. It's like a Japanese team. I used to make this car that races following a line, and your goal is like make a PID algorithm that can race the line really fast, right? And that became a like 12 years old project. Traveled to the US for that. I met like many teams across the world. There was like very experienced engineers that were teaching me everything that we're building. And then I was just fascinated. I was like, I have to be in this place. And I happened to be in the Bay Area. That's kind of like the mindset that accumulated to like, I want to go to the Bay Area. Then there's like startups going on. Got a time that I started building drones. And that also was like, I want to fly. I want to go to the Bay. And that kept going and going.
So did you actually graduate from a high school?
That's a good question from my mother.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't really do the last years in high school. I ended up taking I went back to my home school in Chile and I asked them, hey guys, they're asking me for like a final like exam that like certifies that I did something in school.
Yeah.
And then things happened that I took the final exam. I like used that to get through.
So
and
that
just-
was successful.
yeah, that
okay.
worked well. That worked well.
That's actually crazy that
Yeah.
our school system or educational system, there's no room or no space for geeks, right? For people who are actually quite geniuses, but in the end, you still have to take this final exam. So everyone in society says, yeah, you're a good member of society.
I agree with you. I think like I had a lot of fights with professors, not like fighting, but like a lot of the times I was just with the computer science professor. A couple of years that was my worst, really my worst grade overall. I remember I went to this presentation and we were talking about robots. This is on second year high school, or even first year high school. We were talking about robots and then instead of really me preparing slides, I brought one of the robots that I built. It has like a PID robot the one that can follow the truck. I frankly, I didn't prepare. I didn't even know. Like someone told me the night before there was this presentation going, but like I went to the classroom and I was like, I'm bringing a robot. This is my presentation. I don't have slide decks. It was like, no, 2 on the book. It's like lowest grade you can get,
Okay.
Wow.
and like no
Yeah.
questions asked. That happened. I was like okay, let's just not questions asked. Then a lot of the times I would like help my classmates doing the homework with like different libraries that you can install to not have to write 24 lines of code, but just writing on 2 lines of code. Still annotations in the book, staying after. Exams started to get like specific sentences like dedicated to me. Like, you cannot do this type of libraries.
To Francesco.
No, it was horrible and never really paid too much attention to it. But there are definitely professors that make your life amazing, and all others that like for some reason they just try to drag you down in high school. And I think if you as a kid really think about it too much, you might just get lost from your main goals.
Thinking too much about the system, like to do everything
Just
as
thinking
you
too
were
much about
told to.
thinking too
Yeah.
much about like following the rules. I was
Doesn't
like,
give you the whole creativity that you need, right? As a person that you are.
totally. I was a
Yeah.
pretty rebel. I remember I like to make like fireworks, right? I like fireworks, and I remember I went to my mom had a friend who was a university professor in Chile, and and this is funny. And I asked him to like, can I take some potassium nitrate, which is one of the components to make like explosives, fireworks, and so forth. And out of the blue, I was just like making rocket engine for making rockets. I love space, and rockets was like always like what I was trying to build. And bring one of that to my high school. Like, hey guys, this is a rocket. Like, I literally have a video on my phone that my mom sent it to me yesterday. I can even pull it up. I get a huge annotation, almost like expelled from my school for bringing like rocket engines onto the science. I brought it to my science class. It was school, and didn't even let me do anything. I didn't turn it on, but it was like, I don't know. I think a lot of the times they shut down creativity with no reason, or like not even try to help you turn that into something greater. That if you don't keep pushing, most of the time that would just fade away.
And then you still went to Stanford. You still went to UCL, right?
You always say UCL. This is the funny part. It's UC Berkeley.
UC Berkeley. Why do I say UCL? Whatever. So
I,
then you like UC Berkeley and Stanford. How did that happen?
yeah, Stanford is like a complicated part because I always had like a tough relationship with my father, and I applied to university early on, like 2 years before graduating from school, like when I was 16, and I ended up getting to uni mostly because of the projects, probably what I did, because my grades were okay on early on, but I didn't ever tell my parents. At that time was COVID. I was in Switzerland. Many stuff happened between my father and I. He's like Swiss German, and I'm like really rebel kid at the time. So
We don't like rebels.
yeah,
Germans.
yeah, you guys are so strict that I was like, okay, and nothing. I ended up starting like taking classes. I didn't even tell my parents about it until the moment of like, oh, father, like this is what.
You're approved.
No. Like I already started taking classes. Everything was
Oh,
remote.
okay.
My
Oh.
father was like, you gotta live like a normal kid's life. Like go out. It's summer, or it's hot. Just go out, do stuff. Don't be coding all day. There was a big time difference, so I was like basically studying throughout my whole night and sleeping during the day. But he hated that, so I'll be waking up in the middle of the day just to like
Say hi.
go outside,
Okay.
like get out the Wi-Fi. Sometimes like they will like turn the Wi-Fi off, just so, like I will stop working or stop studying.
Your parents.
That's my father.
Okay.
In Switzerland. But
Yeah.
anyways, long story short, things happen. I dropped out from the uni. The big problem was when I told my father that I actually got to the university. He was upset. It was like it created so much conflict that I was in Switzerland at that time. It was full COVID. My mother was in Chile, so there was like a big misconnection between the two countries. And overall, what actually ended up happening was that for the whole year, like the whole couple months that I was even like taking like classes and at Stanford and everything, I was like literally hopping around between different places in Switzerland. There's something that they call like almost like emergency housing for underage. For a bit of time, I was living in a place like that, and I don't know, like the culture is really cold over there. It's really different from
Chile.
yeah. I like the system in Switzerland. I like the culture in Chile. The people, like the warmth. But nothing. Ended up dropping that. I was like, okay, I have to like rethink what's gonna happen because my father is not really gonna like support me at all on like this journey. And like by the way, like that. The university has a fee. I like never even thought on that. I was just like a kid, immature, like trying to like figure out what to do, right? And mostly not even immature, just like I love technology. I just want to be there. That's all I thought about. Then nothing. Had to like leave what I was doing there. I went back to just do my projects. At that time, I was not living in the house anymore. I'm with my father, and things happened. Like I ended up applying to university again. Went to Berkeley. This time I had completed like one more time, a little bit more education. This was like the time where I actually got to go to university, and a lot of time passed, by the way. Things with my father calmed down, cooled down a little bit, and then went smoother for the rest of the journey. But that's like actually what happened with the whole university. And there's a lot more under the hood. But
So you enrolled to university, and then they send you some bills for tuition, and then you said, "Oh, okay, Daddy, you have to pay for it, right?"
yeah, and I got removed from the house for that. There were nights that I will even sleep with like cold culture. Like my grandparents lived the Second World War. So a lot of the behaviors that you'll get from that generation, he lived, and he passed it to me when I was that way. So a lot of the nights, like, doors will be closed, and as I told you, Wi-Fi, sometimes he would just shut it down. So I'll go study it somewhere else, and it'll be late. I'll get back, and the door is locked. So I have to go sleep somewhere with like cows, or literally on a little farm. A lot of the times that happen.
Okay.
And it was like in the winter, so that I will go there because it was warmer. Many things like this started to happen. Like it was like, no, I'm not doing anything. I'm not supporting you on this.
How long did you do that? Like for like what time period?
That was when I was 16 through 18.
Oh, 2 years.
Like more like a 1 year. And so
Oh, okay.
So what do you think? Where does this drive come from? That you say, "Oh, I love coding. I love robotics. Even if my father turns off the Wi-Fi,
I don't want to say anything about him. I love my father now.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
actually supports me, and like he probably calls me like all the time just to like check. But that was just a rough time. But sorry.
Yeah, like right now, like what do you think? Where does this drive come from? That you have such a big passion for robotics and coding, engineering.
I think in technology is the best way that I can do to really touch and impact people's lives. I realized when I was building this like kid projects at the beginning is because like you just like it, right? Like when you're a kid, I do it for the fun of doing it. Like I'm not thinking too much. It's really an irrational way of like look, I'm making a car. It's running. It's following the line. How do I make it faster? That's all I'm thinking. I want a competition. I was not even thinking on like I'm traveling. I'm just thinking on like it's going faster, right? It's so fun. I'm soldering. It's keeping me busy. It's doing like cooler things than what I was doing in middle school, right?
Sure.
But that at some point, I think when I was like 14, started to evolve to, man, I made something and it's really making people happy. There was this project that I worked on for a bit. That was a drone delivery. It was meant, my house in Chile and my grandma is really close by, and it was meant to let me go pick up a package from my grandma's house and bring it to my place. And just the fact of working on that made my family a lot closer, and that was like a great feeling. And then the same thing I was like doing with other people, and it's just like it was like people was just getting so happy around it. And I started to notice that was the first time like, oh my god, this is like actually able to touch people's lives. This is actually impacting them in some way. And for me, that sort of like feeling of like I love technology started to add with how do I'm building an experience around people and really making it for people, clashing them together. And that's where sort of this like startup bug started to collapse. And then one of the drones that I built, I ended up selling it to someone, and then sort of this started to clash up and in the pyramid of things.
That's amazing. What do you think? Why now? Like, why does the world needs robot now more than ever?
The most common thing that you will hear is there is a labor shortage. I don't know how much I agree on that. I mean, I agree that there's a labor shortage, but I don't think that is the main reason why we need robots right now. If you go to places like Japan, there is a huge labor shortage. Like Japan is like a true thing, and I'll give you the example. If you put a robot in a coffee shop in Japan, people's gonna clap at you because you're doing a good job, because they actually are struggling to find people in coffee shops to work. If you do the same in the Bay Area, you're gonna get a Berkeley student that is gonna be protesting to like take robots out because you're taking people's job. So this is sort of like the different mindset on the take of labor shortage. On factories, I think there's sort of like a different take. I think the labor that we're actually doing in factories is really tedious. I think we can try to think about higher dignity jobs to provide to people by really deploying robotics in scenarios like factories. So we play a huge advantage there. But now I think why robotics now is robotics, I believe, will drive a massive cultural change. Like some of the questions of where are you going to store your laundry detergent? Are you going to store it on the bottom drawer or on the top drawer? You can maybe not put it too high because the robot will have to reach it, right? And on the early days, we were going to really have to think about some of those questions. We need to start doing the change now so we can even adapt people's minds to how do you get used to having a robot on the early days, because robotics won't work as well. And the early users, I think, will play a critical role on how the whole industry gets shaped, because their feedback is going to be critical for some of this household robotics that we'll see.
Yeah.
I think now we have a technology that can actually provide value to people. The AI is not always there yet for some really complex tasks, but we're really able to have robotics to craft experiences on humans. And I think when we're able to craft an experience for people, the technology might not be fully mature, but it has a point of maturity that should get used for such purpose. And now we are, by being in Shenzhen, you can really have the clarity, like those robots are really able to provide some value to people. Now, how do we exploit them to provide value? Because right now they're not really doing such.
So you saw 500 robotic companies here in China in like 2 months.
Companies in the robotic space, yeah. Not all of them are
okay.
humanoids, but companies in the robotics AI ecosystem.
But how do you see this whole ecosystem? If there are like in such a short time so many robotic companies, is there actually space for so much? Or what are they doing?
The robotics market is really large, that there will be many winners in this game. But I think that is pretty a bullshit answer. I heard that answer a lot before. In Shenzhen is so fast to make your own robot. Dude, we're building software. We are the company that literally makes those robots work with the end user. So a lot of those companies in Shenzhen come to us and ask us, like, can we deploy your robot through your platform, right? This is one thing. Now, we also like to do R&D because I'm like geeky about robots. And we like to try building our own humanoids sometimes. So we have a small subset that just basically has fun doing this. We came to Shenzhen because we wanted to see how fast can we get everything to build our own robot. And I'll tell you the speed of things. I get on my phone, I ask another robotics company, hey, give me the contact of this motor company because I want to buy them. I get the contact of the founder. The company is called Damiao. They sell the motors for every other company that you can think. Probably even Figure in the US is using these motors. I text his founder, Damiao. I go to his office. I ask him for like a specific 16 set of motors. We're building the upper body of a humanoid. And he was like, I don't have them in stock, but let me go back and check. He comes back and this customer order, but like you're here in person, I'm giving to you in person. In 2 hours, I had something that in the US you cannot even order because they're out of stock. So the speed of things at which you can do things here is insane. Another one was the Meituan guys. I remember we needed someone who can assemble a couple things for us. And we needed like right now. We went to the streets, we got like a couple Meituan drivers. Meituan is like this food delivery app in China. And first of all, as a foreigner, they were super like happy and laughing about everything that we were doing because we were telling them we're doing some robotics. Can you come here? This is in Shanghai. In just 15 minutes, by going to the street and coming back, we had actually someone who was assembling the robots with us. And that helped us leverage like 8 hours of like time. And that can only happen in Shenzhen. Like at the cost that you can do things, at the speed that you can do things in here, can only happen in Shenzhen, Shanghai as well.
So you hired the food delivery guy to help you assemble the robots.
And like we gave him like a couple 100 yuan, and then he helped us for a day.
That's crazy.
We also needed someone to teleoperate the robot just to like test it. And we were like, we need someone to teleoperate for 8 hours, right? We give you a couple 100 yuan, and then. But literally just like Meituan driver, he came by and then that's it. That was so nice.
I see on my Chinese social media feed, it's all about robots. You have the robot dogs, you have the robot police, you have these fighting robots climbing the stairs. So it's very normal here. And that's actually what you just said, that you need this deployment in the everyday life to gather data, to gather feedback from the customers or from the people outside. So it's actually also, it's already part of normal life here in China. Do you think there's this will be a big advantage? Although now you think, oh, it's fun, they're not working properly, but you gather a lot of feedback and data, right? So do you think Asia and China has an advantage compared to the West?
I think if we don't leverage one and the other one, the industry is gonna progress at like 0.5 the speed. We really need to leverage both of the sides to make the world that we dream about. China, I think, has an interesting thing that they're really tackling meaningful tasks. Like they're trying to show demos on robots helping elderly care facilities, hospitals, and even some meaningful tasks in factories. Well, I think the US, we're still sort of thinking like this household robot that will wash your laundry for you, which you probably pay for it.
Mm.
But are we helping humanity in the best way by doing this? Maybe if we are able to grow really, really fast on the household robot, that then the other ones will leverage with it, probably. But I think it's really interesting to see China and those companies that are focusing on like high value, high impact people that really needs it right now, like screaming for solutions like this. While we see something a little bit different in the US. But on that same note, in the US, we have a lot more progress and leading companies that are working on the intelligence behind robots. While the reality is in China, we've seen a lot of companies that are not being fully honest and on their technology.
You build startups in the US, and now you're building a startup here in China. What is the biggest difference?
To be clear, we're building this startup right now between the US and China. Now we're setting things in China, and working with the people is the biggest difference. And how do you do business with the people is also the second biggest difference. So especially, we are a very Bay Area company, meaning Bay Area. In China, you are also called this Shenzhen, the Bay Area, but we're talking about the San Francisco ecosystem. Everything is very horizontal. There's not much of this like roles. Labels is a very horizontal company where everyone has a strong ownership and is able to self-manage things in its own company, in its own team. In China, on the other hand, is very vertical. Think about a lot of the companies are structured with like sometimes even two CEOs, one that is leading like the sales and the other one that is leading the
Operations.
operations of the company. And then they have heads. I'm talking about an average startup in robotics that has 2 years, right? They have a massive headcount, different heads and leads for different teams, and then they have the engineers who are actually coding. But before that, they have a huge bureaucratic structure that goes all the way to the top. And the way the engineers look up to their superiors is, for me, shocking. And I think at the beginning we are trying to really go fully against this, saying like, no, like this is not how we want to do things in China. But then we started to understand that we're actually not here to really change their culture and how they used to work for the last 10 years. Rather, we want to take them to the highest potential. So let's just give some of the structure that you already had and then adapt it to this. Like, how do you own this ownership? And slowly you fully own your work, because the word of self-management and hire someone who can properly self-manage and understand only by knowing what are you doing and why are you doing it. The most important is why are you doing it. By understanding that, you're able to really accomplish your goal in your team. I think here that was the biggest challenge to really scout for such people. Then how do you do business was the second part that I was telling you. Here, a lot of the things are more informal than and more irrelevant sometimes than they are in the US. In the US, we go to a meeting. That's the meeting. We know what's going on next. Here, if you just go by starting with the meeting, you're starting with your left foot. You want to just start by having a meal, having some type of conversation, and the first 20 minutes you're talking about something entirely. A lot of the time it's not relevant, and we actually learned this by looking at a couple other companies, and just the first few meetings we were just letting them flow. They were like, "You're guiding us through this meeting." We noticed that the customers that are most excited to work with us are those guys who actually started working with us through a dinner meeting.
Yeah, I remember my first time in 2017 when I came here for 2 weeks, and it was a business trip. We were going from Beijing, Tianjin to Ningbo and Shanghai. So we spent 2 weeks together with our clients, but we were only talking about business maybe for 30 minutes. The rest of the time was on time having lunch and on time having dinner. And then in between the times, it was deciding where to have dinner.
No, that's been most of the
Yeah.
experiences here, which sometimes for us is really we tend to be really to the point, and I think this helps remind like humanity is key core, especially in this culture in Asia. Something that you might not
Yeah.
really think about because you think like you're always working, always doing that, always to the point. Is actually a lot the other way around in comparison to the States.
Do you actually care about food, or is it just like you have to eat?
I mean, I found that sometimes it's even nicer because like you're working and eating at the same time. A lot of the other times where you're just eating with the team,
Mm.
but I do care about what food we eat sometimes because like I remember this time like they a lot of the things they enjoy in China, especially they enjoy because we're foreigners. So it always ends up them taking us out to like an interesting restaurant and we're learning a lot about the cuisine. But a lot of the times we're trying things that we're like, okay, this is interesting. We gotta think about this.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is also kind of testing
Yeah,
how
for sure.
capable you are of eating
Yeah.
weird foods.
Yeah, we just have to eat it. That is the thing. We always have to eat it, especially the spicy one. It's like that is that my weak point on spicy.
Uh-huh.
We always have to accept it.
You
It's
have
like,
to work on that.
yeah, we're really trying hard on
Definitely.
that.
So what's your favorite Chinese food?
Cha xiao fan.
Cha shao fan.
Cha xiao fan.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In Cantonese, I think it's cha xiu fan.
Yeah. So there's the fried rice with cha xiu.
No, you're wrong. Is actually just white rice with the sour pork on top,
Ah, okay. So they have the set
the
meat.
barbecue pork,
Yeah.
and then they have some greens on the side, and
Yeah,
then the
yeah,
two eggs on top of it. I think it's so simple. And at some point, I was like a visiting researcher a couple of years ago in Hong Kong at University CUHK, and that was the one plate that I got every lunch for 4 weeks.
Yeah, very typical Cantonese Hong Kong food.
Yeah.
You were talking about how important it is for founders and entrepreneurs, engineers from Silicon Valley, from the Bay Area to come to Shenzhen. Why is it so important?
If you're in consumer hardware, Shenzhen is your spot to be. If you're on B2B SaaS, the Bay Area is your spot to be. However, if you care about the community first and you never had the experience in San Francisco, I think San Francisco is your first place to go.
Mhm.
The ambition and drive of the people in San Francisco is different. And it even hits different to what you see in Shenzhen. With that said, I think once you are experienced and you have done San Francisco and you're able to like relate to such mindset and your ambitions have like 40, 100x,
Mm.
you should come to Shenzhen because you will feel that all of that things that were really slow and you felt that were hard, Shenzhen makes them seem easy when you're building in hardware.
Yeah, it always comes to the point that once you get the software aspect done, you try to come here to incorporate your software with the hardware part, right? So this is basically the best place to be, as you said, because it's faster here. People are more willing to try out things
Yeah.
and iterate.
If you compare Shanghai and Shenzhen, this is something that we actually found out recently is Shanghai really pushes for those large companies. And you see a lot of deal flow happening between large companies or very large startups later on in their journey. While Shenzhen, it's a lot easier for a 3-month startup to start having deals between other startups or between other
Mhm.
companies. That is not the case as in Shanghai.
Yeah. So your approach basically is we need the US drive, we need the US motivation, and we need the Chinese hardware, the Chinese ecosystem, and together you can literally change the world.
I think that is one magic recipe that you can start taking in. The US is really big. I think I was condensing it to some of the talent densities, and especially in San Francisco and
Mm.
likely New York. I know like Austin has a new hub for big technology as well, but US is really broad as a term.
So what were 3 learnings for you from building the startups between the US and China? What is something if people listen to us want to do the same, they have to know?
I think that the first thing is don't get too lost on the legal burden, because whenever you hear the term China, you might feel scared,
Mm.
especially when you're coming from the US. Now, if you're building on a very, very sensitive topic, that might be a different deal. But if you are not that sensitive, I think don't get too scared and don't waste all of your time on this legal burden early on. No one really cares too much about it. Not even China cares too much about it. Leverage the best from the two worlds is pretty obvious, but I will tell you an example on how to do this. You can say, you said it before, like you do software in the US and you do hardware in China, but also a lot of companies in China are having their software in Shanghai or Beijing and their hardware in Shenzhen.
Mm.
You gotta be aware on where is your market, and when you're working with those companies in China, I think being and having proximity is really important. So proximity to your development on hardware companies. I'm giving you something that is not exactly related to us, but I think it will be useful for all those guys building consumer hardware. It's like having that proximity to the manufacturer and having the presence is key. We have never done online meetings in China. I've never hopped on a Zoom meeting here. And that is your difference between closing a deal and getting trust from the guy in China because it's critical, or just letting it go. I think yesterday I met with this company in robotics. They're a humanoid company. They started 1 year ago, and now they have a large mass scale production of robot dogs. They started 1 year ago. They're build humanoid robots, mobile platforms, and now, like, we spoke yesterday, Saturday, 3 p.m., and we're meeting tomorrow in Hong Kong and like afternoon to just like move forward. You can only do this thing in person and always have someone here. And the third one is about your team. I think when you're coming here, you're really taking a leap of faith, and you gotta trust that. You gotta have someone that you can really trust, and that was probably the hardest part on how you trust your team. We got told at the beginning many things from investors from different sectors that you can't trust XYZ person, you can't trust on certain areas. The truth is there is a lot of things that are not real in China. We experience a lot of them. There is a lot of we also experience a lot of untrustworthy things, but I think the same happens in the US. The same happens in Europe and even in Switzerland. With that, you gotta be really thoughtful on who you choose to trust. Because the interesting thing is the Chinese, they don't care if it's a white cat or a black cat. They just care that it catches the mouse. So if you come here and you provide enough value, you will be received with really open arms.
And you also went back to South America, you went back to the US, and people now know that you're building something between China and the US. So what is one question that you get asked the most?
The first question, I think it's always the opening is like, why in the world are you going to China? And my friends in the US are like, most of them are also building their companies right now. It's like, when are you coming back to the States? Like, what are you doing in China? And a lot of them get shocked by the fact that I'm here, right? That there's sort of this big bubble understanding of like San Francisco is like the main place to be, like the only place to be. I agree partially with that. I think San Francisco is the best mindset to be with, but you can apply that in China, and like you can take that to the next level. Now, the second question that they push for is something like the Chinese environment and its comparisons to the US, especially. You know your best environment, and I remember this is like the common phrase is like who wins, a shark or a bear? And the answer usually is like depends on what environment you put them on, right? You can have your best software team outperforming in the US as well, or underperforming in the US as well, and that really depends on how you create that environment around them. For us, we think we can get people extremely excited to work on a place that is moving super fast. Shenzhen is known as a city that is designed to work. It's just like San Francisco. Sure. You go to SF2 Grand, you're in Shenzhen to work. There's nothing else. There's no more distractions. I was talking to this couple other engineers in China. They were like, what are you doing after? It's just work. Like, you just work. There's no concept of after hours. There's just a concept of work, right? Like you have your social medias and your work on the same place. It's all on WeChat. Like it's like you have like all your work, all your clients, they're all on WhatsApp. For a founder, it makes sense, but for a larger company with 200 employees, where the salesperson manages all of their contacts on WeChat, and at 3 a.m. they ping them up, and they will get the notification. You don't get that on a sales guy working at 1x likely. Maybe I'm wrong. but I wouldn't think on that too much. That's why the US has a Slack. So they split the work and the other platform on iMessages or WhatsApp, right? So this drive and this intensity, I think, is great for having it on a team. I don't know how long term that applies for like a US company, but I think it's pretty great to experience that.
So where do you see our world in 5 years when it comes to robotics?
Oh, when your platform actually succeeds, right? So how
Yeah.
does it actually look when you make robotics or robots come or to be implemented much faster than it is right now? Like when your company succeeds, how does the world look like in 5 years?
Robotics is really early. There's no winner in robotics. Like a company in AI agents, you can think about an agentic company or a smaller consumer gadget toy, right? It's really you can see what $1 billion company looks like in those scenarios. You already experienced them. You've seen many YC AI agent startups that have gotten to be unicorns, and there is sort of a path to what that can look like. That doesn't look like that in robotics. And even though we have $1 billion or above valuations on robotic companies, the revenue is negligible. I think dreaming about the future is like, it is gorgeous, but thinking what is a step that we need to take to maximize what we have to learn to really shape this future is what we are living right now, rather than knowing what is a correct path to get there. I don't think we know exactly what is the path. Like maybe we're going to hit a point where technologies are not mature and we're not able to get all the value we want out of them. But with this is what is the steps that we really need to take to get that learning the fastest, to then iterate from that learning to the next one. Now, on the future, I really dream with a place where just a deployment of a robot is seamless. And you can have robotics do things for people. But I think it's gorgeous when we think about robotics doing things with people, not only for people. There's a difference on the experience you can create with them. And a lot of the work that it's actually surprising that this is easier to do early on, building the experience with robotics. I think you should be thinking about how to do things with two people.
So even if technology will work, many companies, many robotic companies still may or will fail because like deployments are too custom, right? The sales cycle takes too long. What else? Customers are not ready yet. Is it currently, like when I'm an investor and I want to pick the one robotics company, right? You mentioned they have currently maybe billions of values, even though there is no real business, like revenues are quite low, right? They don't do any profits. Most of them are just doing demos. What is something that I as an investor would have to look out for if I'm screening the entire market of robots now? Like, is it which company does the best robot, or what is it actually that I have to be realistic about?
I think look for a really honest team that is really iterating fast, that is not so convinced this is the only thing, but really iterating fast and able to maximize the learnings that they take with each step. And especially an honest team, there is a lot of demos that are fake. And we got to learn this thanks to like, we started to hire people from many other companies, and these are really well-known companies in China. And we heard things that actually make us not even trust those guys. Demos that are fake, that they sell as like one holy grail technology that is called VLA, but in reality is running old school robotics, pre-programmed paths to just a pick and place. So look for a team that is honest. And I think a lot of the investors in China are very blinded and ignorant behind the technology and just look at the demos and they think this is the value that the robot will get. But at the end, a lot of these companies are still focusing on raising capital, which I think is critical for pushing robotics forward. But think a little bit more about how do you really provide value to people.
Yeah, that's super interesting. In the end, it's just still the human intelligence and the human drive behind the technology that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great ending to this talk. And we're looking forward, I think, with the speed we have here in Shenzhen, we can talk again in 6 months and the world of robotics will be totally different.
It's going to be a different game. That's why you maximize the learnings. It's like things are moving so fast.
Yeah.
And you have to act fast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.